Hello and welcome to WOW, the positive podcast. Listening to kids and showing them that there's a lot more to our world than bad news. WOW is the podcast that lets you in on the solutions that people are working on for all the problems that you hear about elsewhere in the media. I'm Alastair, and as a journalist, I spent many years bringing people really bad news from around the world. But I realised that if we're going to fix things, we need a bit of inspiration. And so every other Friday, I get together with my podcast buddy Clarisse to talk about what people are already doing to deal with problems. We'd love to hear from you about what's bothering you, or what you think is going right in the world. Contact us via our website, www.wow-news.eu. In every episode, we'll look at big issues from the point of view of problem solvers. That way, we reckon, you'll get a much more realistic and balanced view of what's going on in the world than you might get if you just hear the news headlines. This week, we've got a big problem, but we'll hear about some very big fixes. So, here goes. Welcome back for a new episode of WOW News, the positive podcast. Hello, Clarisse.
Hello, Alastair. I'm really keen to know what we're going to talk about this week.
Well, it's a subject that we've talked about before. Do you remember we spoke a few weeks ago about this bug with a funny name, the coronavirus, which people also call
COVID-19.
That's the one. So, unless you've been living on the moon, I think everybody has heard about it.
Yes, I remember that episode well. It worried me at first because with everything that we heard about it on TV and the radio, it seemed like it would be hard to find anything positive to say about it.
Absolutely. It was a bit like that at first, wasn't it? But it was really important, as you said, not to panic and really to keep things in perspective, to not think about the problem as being bigger than it really is, or to think that there's nothing we can do about it.
Exactly. So thinking about all the solutions to the problem has helped me feel a lot better.
Yes, Clarisse, it's normal to be a bit scared, but the best thing is to use that feeling to help us take care and protect ourselves and other people, and to stay optimistic.
That certainly helps. I've also been finding out more about our body's immune system and how it protects us against viruses. That helps me feel calm.
Yes, Clarisse, we shouldn't forget about our immune system. It really is our body's shield, a superhero which destroys viruses that attack us. And it does that every day. For most of us, there's no doubt that our bodies can kill off the coronavirus too.
But some people don't have such a strong immune system.
Yes, there are people, particularly if they're very old or already sick with something else, who have got more problems, and they may need to go to hospital if they get coronavirus. But the really good news for most WOW listeners is that almost no children anywhere in the world have got sick with this at all. And those who do have not been very ill at all, and they've generally got over it quickly.
Okay, and remind me, Alastair, how do people catch this disease?
Well, like the normal flu, this virus gets into our bodies after someone else who is already infected coughs or sneezes. That's why people who are ill should wear face masks. The rest of us don't really need to, but people who are ill should do. The virus doesn't hang about in the air, but it can live for hours on surfaces like tables, door handles, floors, cups, and so on. So, let's say that someone, let's call him Algernon, has the virus. Well, he might have it without even knowing it. He feels he's about to cough, and so he puts his hand over his mouth. He coughs into his hand. And then he leaves the room, opening the door on his way out. So the next person to leave the room, maybe even half an hour later, is his sister. Let's call her Zenobia. So she touches the same door handle to open the door. And after she's gone, she's outside, she tries to wipe a speck of dust from her eye. Or maybe she has a little nibble on a broken fingernail. Maybe, just maybe, she puts her finger up her nose.
Oh, but
Yes, but we all know people who do that. Anyway, poor old Zenobia has touched the door handle, which Algernon touched after coughing on his hand. And she's now put her hand to her face, in her mouth or her eye or her nose. And so there's a chance now that Zenobia has the virus too. The bug has gone, as it were, from A, Algernon, to Z, Zenobia, as easily as that.
so how do we stop the virus spreading?
Well, it's actually pretty easy in some ways. First, Algernon shouldn't be coughing on his hand. He should cough or sneeze into a paper hanky and then put that straight in the bin. We all need to be doing that, even if we think we've just got a bit of a cold and not the virus. We don't know, so we need to be safe. If we don't have a handkerchief, we need to cough or sneeze into our elbow. It's not very nice, but the virus doesn't live well on clothes, so it's better to put it there than on our hands or just onto the tables or the floor.
Shouldn't he also wash his hands?
Yes, exactly. If you do cough into your hand, you should immediately wash your hands with soap and hot water. They say you should spend as much time washing your hands each time as it takes to sing happy birthday twice. And we should all be doing that several times a day, whenever we've been with people and before we eat anything.
And what could
Zenobia.
Yes, that's it.
Well, she also needs to be washing her hands. Most importantly, she shouldn't be putting her hands near her face. And if she wants to, she needs to make sure that she has washed her hands properly first. So, as she was out amongst people doing things like touching door handles, she should wash her hands.
And that's all.
Well, there are some other things. For example, both Algie and Zenny could have tried to avoid touching the door handle. They might have been able to open the door with their shoulder or their elbow. They could have worn gloves, or they could have used their sleeve or another bit of clothing to cover their hand while they opened the door.
That's all good advice. And of course, I hear that in some of the buildings where there are a lot of people, like schools and offices, people are going around cleaning the door handles several times a day with disinfectant. And of course, lots of people are staying at home much more and avoiding going to places that are crowded.
Yes, Clarisse, and disinfectant, the stuff we normally use for cleaning the house, will kill off the virus. A lot of people are also using hand sanitizer, which is mainly just alcohol, especially when they can't wash their hands in a bathroom.
But I heard that it was really hard to find.
Yes, sadly, a lot of people panicked and bought loads of hand gel, so it has, at the moment in Europe, become quite hard to find it in the shops. But, you can make your own at home with fairly basic ingredients. There are quite a few recipes out there online. It's really not very complicated.
Well, in the end, the most important thing is to do some quite simple things to avoid getting ill. But lots of people are ill, no?
Well, right now, that's March the 13th, there are nearly 150,000 people who've fallen ill across the world. But it's important to remember that means that out of 7.5 billion people in the world, nearly all of them are fine. For every one person who's had coronavirus, there are over 50,000 other people who haven't had it. So it's really very, very rare, and we need to remember that. It's also important to know that in China, where it started and where more than half the cases so far have been, the spread of the virus already seems to be slowing down.
Oh, and what about all the scientists who are working to find a cure?
Yes, well remembered, Clarisse. You recall, as we wrote before, that when we looked at this in WOW in January, we spoke about new ways in which governments and scientists around the world are working in new ways to speed up the research for a new vaccine, a cure for this virus, and that they're also sharing information to try and help slow down the spread of the disease.
Will it take long, do you think?
Well, a lot of people think that it might take until next year until we have a completely reliable vaccine against coronavirus. But there are already promising results from many different laboratories. We're expecting soon to know whether tests using some existing medicines have been useful in fighting it. And did you know that one really important tool in all this is not just test tubes and microscopes in laboratories, but computers, supercomputers, artificial intelligence. Scientists are using some amazing new machines that can analyze millions of molecules per second as they hunt down chemicals that might be able to block the coronavirus.
Whoa, that sounds great. But hang on, without a vaccine, can we cure coronavirus?
Well, absolutely, Clarisse. Remember what we said at the beginning about our body's immune system?
Oh, yes. So we can cure ourselves, right?
Yes, we can. In this week's issue of My Wow Time, the online positive news bulletin associated with this podcast, we heard, for example, from Julie. She got over a few days of being ill with the virus, and she made a video to tell people that it was possible to get better. Two of the worst things about it were having to spend some time in hospital without seeing anyone, she said. And for a time, she found it hard to breathe. Such a simple thing that we normally take for granted.
Yes, but as soon as it's not easy to breathe, we understand how important it is. You know, every day I do some breathing exercises. It helps me stay healthy and calm.
Interesting. So you mean like our friend Bebe, the Olympic fencer that we talked about a few weeks ago? She had a technique to breathe deeply to calm her nerves when she's in competition.
Oh, that's right. It's a fantastic way of reducing tension. But to come back to Julie, you said the other thing she found hard was being in isolation?
Yes, Clarisse. When she was ill, she couldn't see anyone. And it makes you realize how much we all need company, and especially how much we want to have our family with us. That's something that we can forget in our busy, normal lives. And maybe something that being part of this worldwide fight against the virus will help us remember.
That's an important idea. How we should appreciate the simple things in life and keep smiling.
Smiling, you say? Well, I'll tell you about smiling. In My Wow Time, we also heard from Pavel. Now, he's a young man from West Africa who's studying in China. He caught the coronavirus and had to go to hospital. Now, he admits that he was quite scared, but he had a great way of dealing with that. He decided to be positive and started singing and dancing in the hospital, rather to the surprise of the other patients, he admitted.
Whoa, well done, Pavel. I hope he's feeling better.
Yes, he is, much better.
Great, more good news. Thanks, Alastair.
My pleasure. You know, all this good news is giving me the urge to do a bit of singing and dancing myself. Anyway, listen, it's time to go and to give our listeners some peace. So thanks, Clarisse, and see you soon. So, what did you think of our chat about coronavirus? Are you feeling a bit reassured, like Clarisse? Or are you worried? You should certainly talk to your parents or teachers. They can tell you in more detail all the things you can do to avoid catching this disease. And remember, your body is well able to fight it off, thanks to its amazing immune system. And you can help your immune system by eating fruit and vegetables and walking and playing. All that really helps. You can read our article at www.wow-news.eu, where you can also subscribe free to My Wow Time, our positive news bulletin. You can also listen to the article on the same platform where you downloaded this one. And don't forget to send us your postal address if you'd like a free copy of the Wow paper, our new print issue, in the coming weeks. Meanwhile, keep safe, keep positive, and we'll be back with more good news soon.